How did a gang of old grandpas steal 275 million euros from a vault in London? And can you really make 103 million in just 27 seconds of work? Today we will present to you the top 10 most spectacular robberies that will shock you. Let's get started. Number 10. Semi-failure due to illiteracy. Hackers from Bangladesh plan to steal nearly $1 billion from the country's central bank. Yes, you heard that right. $1 billion, not $1 million. They failed because of poor knowledge of the English language and a very ridiculous typo. Hackers got their hands on the bank's servers, through which they began to transfer millions without being disturbed. The first 4 tranches were successful, and they received 81 million USD, which is a huge amount. However, the 5th tranche hit a snag, and that was because of illiteracy. The reason? In the address field, instead of the English word foundation, they wrote foundation with an A, as they heard it in speech. The bank officials noticed the small error and decided, quite by accident, to make an inquiry to confirm the addressee. This is how they have established the large-scale outflow of money. The hackers had ordered millions more transfers in over 300 tranches, totaling $870 million, which, as you can imagine, were thwarted because of this ridiculousness. Even so, the $81 million to date remain one of the biggest bank heists in history. A film has already been made about the case. Hackers have acted very cleverly and have not been caught so far. Number 9. Valuable paintings. Works of art by notable artists have always been subject to theft because of their high value. 4 extremely impudent criminals stole Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece Madonna of the Yarn Winder in broad daylight in front of visitors. This happened in 2003 in the Scottish castle of Durham. They entered it under the pretext of being tourists, and without worrying at all that they were being watched, the thieves grabbed the picture from the wall, threw it out the window, and went to get it from below. To the stunned tourists and witnesses of the crime, the thieves simply said that they were from the police and were conducting an exercise. Other criminals in the US directly dressed as law enforcement officers and broke into the Boston Museum in 1990. They entered at night and stole 12 paintings by Rembrandt, Vermeer, and Degas, worth a total of between $300 and $500 million. Number 8. Pharmacies are a target. Did you know that pharmacies in America are a frequent target of robberies because drugs can be sold on the black market for really big money? That is why serious pharmacies have large safes in which expensive medicines are kept. But as you will see in a moment, even they are not an obstacle. One morning, 2 masked men entered a pharmacy, crawling on the ground to avoid the alarm sensors. There were security cameras, but the robbers didn't care at all. They started cutting the safe with a loud instrument, perhaps an angle grinder, and were using various cough syrups to reduce the sparks from the cutting. The thieves left the pharmacy with drugs worth about $1 million, and it is believed that they will sell them on the black market for about $3 million. The bandits, as you can imagine, were never caught and are still wanted. Number 7. Robbery of an entire port. Mexico lifts the crime level of this chart right up several notches. A gang stole half of the shipping containers from the local port. One morning, heavily armed men stormed the gate, quickly overpowered the guards, and began loading containers full of goods with cranes onto their own trucks. The robbers acted quite calmly for 10 hours. Imagine a 10-hour heist, because from a distance it looked like the port was just working normally. They loaded 20 containers full of electronics, cars, jewels, and gold. The local government commented that there had been thefts from the port, such as breaking into 1 or 2 containers, but have never seen lifting half of the port. It is believed that the local cartel is responsible for this robbery. Number 6. Dar es Salaam. In 2007 in Iraq, during the American military operations in the country, the Dar es Salaam bank in Baghdad was robbed. Now you must be thinking, how much they took from a country at war, especially when it comes to Iraq. However, an armed group of men made off with $282 million in cash and various valuables, and the robbery remains a mystery to this day. Little is known about the details of the crime, including why such a large amount of US currency was available. The bank is believed to have been involved in illegal activity and drugs, and therefore absolutely nothing is being shared with the authorities. According to a statement from the Ministry of Internal Affairs in Iraq, the robbery was carried out by 2 or 3 security guards of the bank itself. How much can be believed in the statements from the institutions of this violence-torn country? I leave it to you to judge. Hey, we are in the middle of the video. Give a thumbs up if everything here is interesting to you, and let's continue with more shocking robberies. Number 5. Pensioners took €275 million. One of the biggest robberies in London was carried out by 9 people, among whom are grandpas at the age of 76. The group, which included 3 pensioners, broke into the Hatton Garden Vault in London, opening 76 safes from which they stole gold, diamonds, cash, and other valuables worth a total of €275 million. The bandits had been preparing for months and chose Easter as the best time to strike. They even posted notices on the neighboring buildings that there would be noise during the holiday so that the neighbors would not suspect something and would complain to the police. The thieves hid in the vault building before it was closed for the holidays. They spent the night there, and the next day, when it got dark, they went down the elevator shafts to the vault itself. After that, they broke a 50-centimeter concrete wall with heavy construction equipment and entered the vault. In less than an hour, they cracked open quite a few safety deposit boxes, which was only a third of the possible loot. Due to lack of tools, they could not open the large safes. The report to the police was made a few days after the robbery because it was a holiday, and no one was working. However, the robbers were caught because they didn't cover their tracks very well. It's a pensioner's job. They forgot some tools in the vault and left traces. There is a documentary online for this amazing case. Number 4. ATMs are a hard target. In recent years, attacks on ATMs have become more and more common in every country. In an ATM robbery in Bulgaria, thieves stole nearly €100,000 from a machine. Buglers have to get more and more inventive because it is not at all easy to crack open such a device. That's why they put explosives where we insert the cards and blow up the ATMs. But this is also risky because if you put a little more explosive than you need, you can also destroy the money inside. ATMs also have a heat alarm, so thieves have to use gas explosions that don't generate one. The other option is to pull it with a car or a truck, but then you have to drag it, and that thing makes a lot of noise. It's easiest to just grab an ATM with an excavator, as they did in Northern Ireland, demolishing part of the building it was in. Then you put it on a minivan with the roof cut and you're done. We are not kidding. This really happened, as you can see in the footage. Of course, the excavator and the minivan were also stolen. Number 3. 100 million in 27 seconds of work. This on your screens is perhaps the most famous and expensive hotel on the French Riviera, the Ritz-Carlton in Cannes. Extremely wealthy people stay there, making it just the perfect place to shop for very rare and impossibly expensive jewelry shops. One Sunday in 2013, a man wearing gloves and a cap walked into the store, waved a gun, and stole 72 necklaces and a pile of diamonds in front of 3 security guards. Then he just walked out of the store like a boss and mingled with the crowd. The heist, dear friends, lasted exactly 27 seconds, but in that time, the bandits stole €103 million worth of jewels. The police and the owner of the store, the Israeli billionaire Lev Leviev, were in shock and initially announced only €40 million in loss. Later, however, it became clear that the amount was more than double. The perpetrator of the crime is still unknown even after the massive police operation. Number 2. Tunnels to 70 million in 2005. Experienced thieves in Brazil pull off one of the most well-planned heists in the country's history. Their loot was used as banknotes, but in the end, the total amount stolen weighed 3.5 tons and had a total value of $70 million. Their plan was simple. Like in children's movies, they simply dug a tunnel to the bank's vault. For this purpose, they rented a house near the bank building and started digging through a hole in the ground. They put a sign on the door saying that the house is now a flower shop, so the neighbors wouldn't suspect anything with the tons of soil they took out. And so, they dug quietly for 5 months. They made an 80-meter tunnel to their goal, which has been a difficult task. But the real test comes when they reach the floor of the vault, which is 1 meter thick and made of reinforced concrete. It took them all Saturday to break through, but they finally did so. Then it was easy. The thieves sneaked in, took the money, and disappeared. The bank found out about the robbery 2 days later. So far, there are 27 people arrested for connections with the robbery, but the organizers remain at large. Number 1. The biggest heist in history. On the eve of the Iraq War, the dictator Saddam Hussein saw where things were going with his country and decided to secure himself financially. A day before the bombings in Baghdad began, several trucks stopped in front of the country's central bank building. Saddam's son gets out of the first truck and gives the bank manager a note saying that the vault must be emptied so that the money and gold do not fall into foreign hands. About $1 billion are loaded into trucks and sent off in an unknown direction. Today, 20 years later, the money is still wanted and no one knows where it is. Bank employees gave interviews to the New York Times after the war and said that when Saddam ordered something, it was carried out without objection. Thus, the money was loaded in less than 2 hours by a whole team of workers. When the Americans break into Hussein's residence, they find about $650 million hidden in various caches and announce that they have recovered the money from the bank. However, it turns out that this was a separate savings account of the dictator, and so the money from the robbery remains unknown. Some say they're in Kuwait, while others say they've been looted and scattered among American military commanders. Bonus: the youngest bank robber in the world. Did you know that the youngest bank robber in the whole world is the Bulgarian Stefan Cholikov? At least according to Time magazine. He is included at the top of the ranking after committing the biggest bank robbery in the history of Bulgaria without even entering the bank. At that time, he was only 21 years old and the amount was 100,000 euros. The reinforced vault is located in Sofia. The first step is for Cholikov to register a company and in about half a year become a VIP client of the bank. For the withdrawal, he chose the date of May 30th because that's when they started transferring people's pensions, and there was cash in the bank. Cholikov sends 2 people. One has to deposit money while the other withdraws it. However, the money was never deposited due to a flaw in the bank's system, which certifies the payment when the import note is signed, not when the money is received. That is, on paper the money is in the account, but in reality it is not there. Here comes the second person who withdraws the huge sum weighing nearly a ton. Thumbs up if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Goodbye and see you again.